The Human Experience. Inside the Humanities at Stanford University. humanexperience.stanford.edu.
This is an extraordinary story that is a memoir written in Ladino, the language of the Judeo-Spanish communities of the Balkans.
One of the things I find so exciting about this source is that it allows for a highly personal glimpse into one man's world. And in some respects, it's idiosyncratic and inevitably reflects the author's own desires and hopes and frustrations. But it opens up for the historian a picture of details that other kinds of sources don't allow us to see. Pictures of sisters and mothers and the insides of homes and cafes and of clothing, of domestic life, of fears about disease and fire.
We really hope that through the interpretation, presenting first of all the original text and then the interpretation, we can contribute really to more reflection and more thought about a world that we have lost, a world that is gone, that has been completely transformed. There are virtually no Jews left in Salonica, only a community of 1,000. This was the crown jewel community of the Judeo-Spanish world. It was also a major port city in the Ottoman Empire. This is quite a few years ago I discovered this manuscript, and I had known about this particular author because there had been ways in which there have been places where excerpts from this memoir had been published before, but the entirety of the manuscript of this memoir had never been found and was not thought to be in existence. So I got very excited, and then as part of the task of disseminating this to a wider public, we embarked upon a collaborative enterprise with Sarah Abrevaya Stein and Isaac Jerusalmi into translation, editing, translation, transliteration.
I found it to be a great honor to work collaboratively, especially across different spectrum of where we were in our professions and within the academy.
The process was really remarkably seamless. I think the first part of the process was obviously this extraordinary erudite man, Isaac Jerusalmi, who is a scholar, now emeritus at Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati, trained in classics, philology, Semitics, but growing up in a Ladino-speaking household in Istanbul, and therefore having all the requisite linguistic skills to delve into the multiple layers of this text.
And we brought together diverse skills that I think each of us read this text differently. And to bring together three perspectives on one document yielded an astonishing richness of readings.
We kind of tweaked and fine-tuned over multiple iterations of the introduction and actually the actual editing of the final editing of all of the constituent parts, and it was incredibly enriching.
We benefited from each other's obsessive foibles in the sense that I might get a call from Aron who would say, last night at 2 in the morning I realized that we didn't explain why we call him by his first name in this book. Why do we call him Sadi? We have to make a note that we called him Sadi because the contemporaries called him Sadi.
Right.
And then he being a night owl and me being an early bird, the next morning at 5:30 I would have a revelation that we had forgotten to discuss the amazing story about his sister's disease and how Sadi comes to her aid. So it's a nice demonstration where two minds actually can be more effective than one.
The kind of turning point around which everything revolves is his excommunication by the rabbinical authority in the city of Salonica, where the Jews are more than 50% of the population. And he really begins to write all of this as a way of defending himself and exonerating himself from all the accusations against him. While describing all of these stories, he fleshed it all out in a way in which he was also talking about the way the people of Salonica, the Jews of Salonica in the 19th century lived and had their education, their daily lives, communal conflicts, all of those kind of things. So we got drawn inside the story of this kind of fabled community, which, alas, is no longer.
He was a printer by profession, and that's how he earned his money. But he was by passion and by hobby a musician, a singer, and a composer. His musical exploits draw him into an extraordinary range of adventures and situations. At one point, he talks about performing at the Talmud Torah, the main Jewish school at which traditional Jewish subjects would be taught to boys in Salonica, to a crowd of 2,000. An extraordinary turnout to hear this master singer. He speaks of performing at weddings and festivities, and at one point this draws him into trouble with the chief rabbi of Salonica, who is upset when he hears that secular music is being performed at Jewish events, and in fact excommunicates a musician for playing a violin at a Jewish gathering. So those episodes, which filter through the memoir, they're not all condensed in one place, depict the subtle details of lived life and of pleasures and of struggles in a very palpable way that is endearing and vivid.
The history of these communities, especially the Sephardic communities around the Eastern Mediterranean, have only been recently worked on, and we lack a lot of sources. We have lacked, up until recently, indigenous voices from those communities in their own language, sort of giving perspectives for the historian, raw material for historians to reflect upon.
In a sense, all students of the humanities have an investment in ensuring that languages that are endangered receive attention by scholars. And if we cannot halt their endangerment or their disappearance, at least we can study them and resuscitate them through scholarship and learn about them and use original documents to teach these languages and to perpetuate knowledge. The wider implications of this is that for the humanities in general, we are participating in the preservation and intellectual perpetuation, the scholarship, the scholarly study of a language that has, alas, had a fairly tragic fate.